Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
Just even small acts, like daily acts, like kindness, just being kind to one another, that doesn't require having to sign up for anything. It just means when you see somebody that you treat them with respect and you put yourself in their shoes and you try to be empathetic towards them. It becomes part of your personality.
Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
Today, we are speaking with Neil Bush.
I was raised in a family that kind of established a culture of giving back and of service.
Neil Bush is an international businessman, chair of the Points of Light Board of Directors and of the board of the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation. His work at Points of Light is dedicated to expanding his father, George W. Bush's vision of empowering volunteers to boost social services and find new ways to help people, support families, and improve communities. So what would you say are your top 3 tips for teenagers to create a positive impact?
The top tip is find stuff you love. It's easier said than done.
How did your upbringing shape your perspectives on leadership and social impact?
My mother, by the way, was a wonderful, loving, giving mom, but Dad just was in the luxurious position, I guess, of just being him.
What would you say is your greatest piece of advice for teens if they want to be leaders?
How do you bring out the best in people? You know, whatever their best qualities are.
Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Welcome, Mr. Neil Bush.
Hello, thank you, ladies, for having me. What a treat.
Oh, thank you. We are so thrilled to have you on today. You are a renowned businessman, philanthropist, investor. What led you to take an interest initially in philanthropy?
I was raised in a family that kind of established a culture of giving back and of service. My dad and my mother, when they were young parents, engaged us in different kinds of volunteer activities. I was raised in a family that kind of set a great example for giving back to others. My dad, when he ran for president after he became president, noticed that all around the country problems were being solved by nonprofit organizations that were focusing their resources and energy on certain causes, and that those nonprofit organizations often were powered by volunteers. And so he called on all citizens to try to find the light inside of you, to be a point of light in the lives of others. And so he was raised in a family of service and raised us in that environment of service and called on the nation and on people all over the world to be of service to others. So yeah, there's a good family tradition and family culture. I'm very blessed, by the way, because I'm the chairman of the George H.W. Bush School of Government and Public Service. I'm the chairman of Points of Light, which is, I think, what brought me to your attention. I'm the chairman of the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S.-China Relations. And my wife and I started the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation. So I'm a very busy business guy still, but spend quite a bit of time, with various boards and advisory boards and the management of these various Bush legacy organizations, which I really enjoy. I love seeing my parents' legacy of service being carried on, to this day, way after their passing.
I love that so much, and I really, really love how your organization, Points of Light, is really focused on, all of us becoming a point of light and supporting others. I really, really love that, and I love the name and everything it stands for, as well as how your family life impacted and influenced, this drive to create a change, because I think the ability to help other people is so closely tied to feeling happiness and feeling happier. Sure. And so I really think that is amazing. We just want to quickly say, check out our happiness wellness products designed by us for individuals of all ages to help you bring a small bit of happiness to your home with our tangible tips and tools. Check them out in the show notes.
I'm kind of curious, Anastasia and Mercedes, you guys, how did you become like enthralled with this connection between service and happiness, or helping others and happiness? Is there a personal story and you probably have told it to your podcast people, but can you give me an elevator pitch on why you're doing this?
Absolutely, yeah. So our podcast, Hack Your Happiness, is a part of our company, Small Bits of Happiness, which we started during the pandemic because Anastasia and I were both, well, I was 13, she was 11, so we were kind of on like the brink of teenagehood, struggling to feel happy. And what we found within our own family as well really helped us was focusing on the small and the good in everyday life and kind of looking for happiness into our daily routine, building it into like a habit. So we wanted to share that with other teens and with everyone because everyone can use a little bit more happiness in every day.
I just love your focus on finding joy, and especially finding joy in giving of yourselves to others. There are studies, by the way, that show that if you are of service to others, that you live longer, that you're healthier, that you have a more balanced life. You know, that it's one of the legs of longevity. So as I get older and older, I'm kind of leaning into living a life of purpose, because it's the opposite of loneliness. What you're really attacking is the issue of loneliness and isolation. And if you're out helping others and doing kind things, even tiny little things of gestures of kindness, go a long way towards helping the person that's being affected by your kindness. But probably more importantly, it's making your heart grow stronger and better, and giving you a pathway to a longer and healthier life. So, yeah, there are also studies, by the way, and this is not necessarily targeted to your teen audience, but corporations that implement a culture of service where they hire employees, and then use those employees or give those employees opportunities to serve in the communities where they work. Those companies benefit by having, being able to attract better, employees, being able to retain better employees, and getting more work and productivity out of those employees. So there's a lot of evidence that it's not only good for your health span as an individual, but for companies and for churches and synagogues and mosques, for organizations, for school, universities, for all kinds of institutions. If you encourage a culture of service, you're going to get more loyalty and productivity out of your employees or your parishioners or whatever. So you've hit a nerve, like a beautiful, wonderful nerve. I wish others could get. I hope everybody can hear your message.
Oh, we really appreciate that. And I definitely agree with what you said about how giving service gives intention into your actions. And I feel like just knowing that, you can do something that matters, you can do something that counts, and it can positively affect multiple different types of people, and it can positively affect that community. It can definitely make us feel happier because we feel like we do matter. We belong in a community and we can make an impact that can help others.
Exactly. And the thing is that what we love to tell our listeners as well is like it doesn't have to be major. Every day you can do something that serves others, that helps others, and that really is a small bit of happiness in of itself.
Yes, exactly. My dad is a great example. Not only did he advocate for service to others, but he was the most loving, kind, thoughtful human being. When he was kind of in a wheelchair and very old, he never really let people focus on what might be his woes or concerns, and would always pivot to asking how they were doing. Or he always found a way to make everyone feel welcomed and loved, and he had the biggest, most loving heart. And I think that's kind of the genesis of this movement of caring and giving and being happy through service, is leaning into your loving heart, and so I'm very, very proud that my dad was a great role model for being a man and still being sensitive and caring and loving, and very thoughtful to everyone. He wrote handwritten notes all the time. He was just very kind and thoughtful.
Oh, I love that. And I love the handwritten notes. That's such a personal
For
touch.
sure.
I love that.
It's kind of old school these days. I send it. Do you write handwritten notes, you guys, or?
We do for like birthdays or celebrations,
Yeah.
like a little happy birthday card.
Yeah, it means a lot to people. And if I don't know, my dad used to write notes, just for random things that come up and stuff. And people get these notes. They're after he became president, you see notes hanging like framed in people's homes and, and stuff. So yeah, there are books. There's a book about that is a compilation of many of the notes that his friends and family kind of turned in to be published. It's worth a worthwhile read. But yeah, notes are great. Handwritten notes are especially good for showing a personal touch and caring. So.
Absolutely, especially in our digital age.
Yeah, I agree. So, turning the conversation around a little bit, currently you're chairman at a nonprofit, Points of Light. Can you tell us a little bit more about your organization and what is Points of Light top priority for its impact?
Points of Light was formed by my dad from the White House. So when he was president, he recognized that government can't solve all of our problems and that individual organizations powered by volunteers in communities all over the world and in his focus in America, we're solving real problems. And so he referred to the reason the words Points of Light came up is he in his speech where he received the nomination to be the Republican candidate for president at the convention, he talked about this galaxy of stars, like points of light, spread like a galaxy of stars, in a peaceful night, referring to all these organizations. And it's true that there is a light in each of us, excuse me, that shines to be of service and to be kind and to be happy and to spread joy to others. Points of Light today is an organization that has about a $27 million annual budget. We have lots of programmatic activities. We're the largest convener of organizations and individuals in the voluntary service sector in America. So every year we have a conference. There are 2,000 people or so show up. We have inspiring speakers and breakout sessions. Everybody's sharing best practices. We're the largest networker of voluntary service action centers in America. So we have 250 volunteer centers in actually 39 or so globally. We convene them. We help them, figure out how to get more resources. These are all independent 501c3 organizations, but we kind of provide, as much support as we can. We have a corporate service council, so we have like 90 or so major corporations, many global corporations, who can get together quarterly, again, to share best practice, how to best deploy employees in their corporations into the community, what kind of incentives or rewards you get. So there's a little competitive feeling around it, and so more and more corporations are doing better and better work as a result of our convening these folks. We have a recognition program called the Daily Point of Light Award. There have been 7,900 Daily Points of Light Awards given. The very first one was given, again, from the White House. And these awards recognize ordinary citizens who do extraordinary things on a voluntary basis to help others. We hired a new CEO a year ago, and right now there's been a pretty steep decline in volunteer rates in the United States. So right now, 23% of Americans say that they take voluntary action during the year. That's down from 30%. So COVID took a hit to people being out and helping others. This whole crisis in polarization and isolation is affecting the ability to people's desire to be out and in service to others. So we've developed a kind of a blueprint for taking action as an organization to bring like-minded groups together to raise awareness of the urgency of acting and being engaged. There's one thing that's for sure is that if you're isolated and you get out of your isolation and serve others, it has a very healing and therapeutic effect over your loneliness. And it's true that if you're a volunteer and you can touch a senior that's been locked up in a home for a long time or whatever, there's a huge power and unifying power of service. And so we're trying to find ways to really motivate more, to get the numbers going back in the right direction from the steep decline recently to where it should be. much higher levels.
I love that because it's so true. Like, it's so important to help others to, take our own time and take our own energy and put that towards supporting the community and really reap those benefits. And so I absolutely love all the work and the tremendous impact that Points of Light has generated and how you are consistently innovating and finding new ways to engage.
And I think that the Daily Points of Light Award is so important because it encourages people to do stuff on the daily to help one another, not just try to choose one big thing every once in a while, because I think the power is in those small day-to-day good deeds and helping one another.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a real value to the episodic, you know. So, for example, Texas A&M, a university in Texas where my dad has his presidential museum, library, and the Bush School. They have an event every year, a single day event. People, these like 50,000. Let's see, hold on. Let me make sure I get the not 50,000, like 20,000 students show up at 6 in the morning or something, and they work all through the morning and into the early afternoon. They're given assignments in the community to go do projects, but that's a one-shot deal. It's one and done. It's like you were saying, Anastasia. But the hope is that the university kind of provides this opportunity. People flock to it, that they will carry on and do other things. It's nice to get a little taste of the joy that comes from that kind of service, because you might end up becoming you might establish it as a culture in your own life. So I'm curious, in Canada, do they have like mandatory volunteer type thing to graduate from high school? Do you have to have certain volunteer hours or so? Like,
No, not at least not in Alberta. Like, I don't know in other provinces, but it's encouraged and it helps you get admissions.
so it's good on the resume for going into college. I mean, that's positive. See, that's an incentive, and even though it feels forced, it doesn't feel organic or you know what I mean? Because students do it just to get it on their resume or whatever, But it's a step in the right direction, because maybe 10% or 20% or more will continue volunteering. They'll see the value of it and continue volunteering.
Exactly. And then just like at the Texas University or with, volunteering to help your resume, you build it hopefully gradually into a habit within your life.
From what I'm gleaming from the title of from your work, is that just even small acts, like daily acts, like kindness, just being kind to one another, that doesn't require having to sign up for anything. It just means when you see somebody that you treat them with respect, and you put yourself in their shoes and you try to be empathetic towards them. You know what I mean? It's a simple, but that's kind of an attitude, and it becomes part of your personality. And when that's, I don't know, I think people that are that way, that are positive and uplifting, are live such a better life.
Absolutely. And, I think there's a saying where it's like, or the 5 people that you're around or your nearest circle of people is who you become. But I think that's something that we need to realize is we can also influence the people in our lives. And if we start to act positively towards them, they can pass that kindness on to others. And when we help others, other people are encouraged because of our actions. So we can really create a very good ripple effect in our own communities.
That's a great word, ripple effect. You're 100% right.
Thank you. Yes. So throughout your investments, philanthropy, and business endeavors, you have generated a tremendous amount of impact for millions of people. And again, like we've been talking about, helping others is so closely linked with helping us feel happier. So what would you say are your top 3 tips for teenagers to create a positive impact?
I'd say the top tip for success and creating impact is find stuff you love. It sounds so trite, I guess, a little bit, because it's easier said than done. But if you have a passion for sports, or passion for animals, or passion for whatever, and you study it and you read about it and you become an expert in it, I mean, that's the first step, or a major step towards being a successful human being. I'm not sure how to give advice on how to be nice to people. I mean, what I mean, I would just hope that would go without saying, that it's better to be kind and thoughtful and forgiving and, welcoming of others. But that's also a key. I think you can get ahead in life not by being a bully necessarily, although there's that role model out there in today's modern world that bullies do win sometimes, I guess. But I'd rather think that leadership is more about leading with humility and giving other people credit and looking for the best in others. Yeah, I don't have three pieces of advice.
Well, I love your tip. I think
sure.
that is really very all encompassing. It's so true what you're saying. Like, there's a lot of negative role models out there,
Yeah.
and with online and social media being so prevalent, like, it's very easily spread. But what I think is so important to realize is, like, you can still be successful and be kind to other people. You don't need to put others down in order to elevate yourself up.
And I think it's also really important to almost like think about how others and put others first when you're trying to lead, and realizing that you're not only leading for yourself, you're leading a group of people, you're leading for the betterment of something, and kind of lead with like empathy and knowing how your actions will have others react.
Yeah, exactly.
And by following your passion and like finding ways to generate a positive impact through whatever your passion is, I think that's a really great way to create that sustainable positive impact to drive yourself to want to make positive impact. Like, for instance, if you love athletics and you love sports, you might not want to volunteer at an animal shelter, but you could volunteer and, donate money to help young children participate in
Or
athletics.
you could create a fundraiser where, you get someone to pay $2 to enter a local soccer game with you and your friends, and you have a game going. And
Exactly. Like, there's so many innovative ways to kind of bring people together and
Exactly.
impact others through your passion.
And
Yeah, to connect your passion. Exactly. You're right. So the other thing that's interesting about voluntary service, and we've talked about individual kindness, but if you go out and serve, like at a food bank or a beach cleanup. Let's see, Alberta doesn't have a beach, but like a park cleanup or something. To do it with friends is a positive thing, because there's there can be a social element to helping, and if you do it with a group of friends, then there's kind of a ripple effect or multiplier effect of not only being helpful with the task, but also, being in camaraderie with your buddies.
for sure, I definitely agree with that. I think also when you have that kind of good experience of doing it with your friends, and kind of you can make it kind of a hangout. Oh, let's go help people at like the food bank, but at the same time we're connecting, and also connecting brings you happiness. So you're kind of stacking it.
You're like doubling up.
Exactly.
Yeah, doubling down on it. You're right. I agree.
For sure. And you mentioned about how growing up in your household, there was a lot of thought towards being thoughtful, and, your role model, your father, was really impactful on you. How did your upbringing shape your perspectives on leadership and social impact?
Yeah, I mean that's you kind of covered it in a thumbnail there, that being raised by parents. My mother, by the way, was a wonderful, loving, giving mom, but she was also known as the enforcer in our family. So, when grandkids didn't pick up their towels, or, when we were kids and our rooms were messy and the beds weren't made, mom was the one that had to be the enforcer, to kind of, with the iron fist. She wasn't always kind. Let me put it that way. She did her job, and she kind of whipped us into shape. But dad just was in the luxurious position, I guess, of just being him, which was just a heart, filled with love and kindness and thoughtfulness to others. So yeah, just being raised in that environment was hugely impactful for me. Interestingly, I have 3 kids, and my wife has 3 kids. We have 6 kids combined. So my oldest daughter, Lauren, interestingly, she married a guy named David Lauren, so her name is Lauren. And Lauren started in college an organization called Feed Projects. If you Google it, you'll see her work. She loved design, so she combined her love of design. She made tote bags and then quantified how many meals would be served through the UN World Food Program for every bag that was bought. Over the past, I guess it's been, she's 40 now, so she graduated like almost 20 years ago. So let's say 15, 18 years ago, she started this. She's caused over 130 million meals to be served in schools in Africa through the UN World Food Program, which is like a mind-boggling number of meals. And these aren't big, giant, meals. These are like nutritious, tiny little nuggets of meals, but they were served in schools, so kids had to go to school to get the meal. Anyway, so and my son runs the largest Big Brothers Big Sisters organization in the United States, based in Texas. He's got like 5 major cities, so he's hired all the people in the various cities. But mentoring is another way to have a huge impact on the life of an individual. If you can help a kid who's raised in a single family in the inner city and has never had the experiences that you've had, and you can share that hopefulness and love with that kid, then statistics show that the likelihood of that kid kind of falling into the poverty trap and living a life of crime, etc., goes way down. So the probability of living a more successful life goes way up. Anyway, but I guess the point of that is my 2 kids and all of our kids have, to different degrees, kind of drunk the Kool-Aid of my parents that suggests that it's better. Life is better when serving others. In fact, my dad famously said that any definition of a successful life must include service to others. I mean, that's a pretty bold pronouncement to say that you have to serve others in order to live a successful life. It was aspirational and calling on all of us to find the light inside of us to be of service. So, yeah, there's a cultural impact that, if you establish it in the family, it kind of goes down generations and becomes part of the DNA of the family.
I love that whole concept so much, and I really, really admire the example of your children, because I think that's exactly what we were talking about with your number one tip being combine your passion with helping others. Your daughter with her designs, your son with mentoring others. Like, they've both created such amazing impacts in our world for millions, and they're doing what they love. And I just think that shows, like, you don't need to sacrifice passion to make good in this world. Like, you can do both.
Exactly. Finding a middle ground that will then allow you to fuel yourself towards this, and at the same time you're helping others, so you're getting that like energy and happiness off that, but you're also creating something that you're passionate about and that you really love.
That was beautifully articulated by both of you guys. I should throw that into my little spiel about my kids, because they were motivated. My son became a mentor to a kid, and then got to learn about the program. And then they hired him to be a kind of a development officer in Houston, and he rose very quickly to become the head of the whole thing. Because it was he cared deeply about it, because he understood the value of it. And my daughter loved design, but she also thought food insecurity is one of the major global issues that needs to be addressed, when she was at Princeton University. So it was a perfect combination of her like interests. That I don't know, that's a key part of success in life, as we've already discussed. So
exactly, and so I really, really love those are like 2 amazing, perfect examples of how we can all find that. And so, as the chairman of Points of Light, you're a very strong and active leader. And so, what would you say is your greatest piece of advice for teens if they want to, be leaders? Because I think sometimes as teenagers we feel like, well, I have to grow up, I have to graduate high school, I have to get a degree to be a leader. But if teenagers feel like they want to become leaders and help others in their community now, what would you be your greatest piece of advice for them?
I don't know. That's a great question. How to I'm not sure. I had an interview yesterday with twins. They were in Hong Kong, and the father asked if I would meet them via Zoom, so I had a Zoom call. and they're both applying for colleges. One wants to go to Stanford, the other wants to go to other universities. And it was so interesting to me that one of the twins saw himself as being a leader, saw himself as being a founder. Like he visualizes himself being being the head of a unicorn, of a future giant company, and that kind of thing. And I was kind of pushing back. I said, maybe you should start working for a company, learn the ropes, and then eventually. And he says, I just don't want to work for any dudes, you know what I mean, or whatever. So he has an attitude, kind of a built-in leadership type attitude. The other guy loves history, and he wants to become a lawyer and do more of a, I guess, a traditional route towards future career options. So my question after meeting these two twins, they were born like 5 minutes apart, is how much of it is kind of wired into your system. So I'm not sure that you can teach people leadership so much as somehow, bringing out, I guess the goal, I would say, rather than leadership, and I'm not sure how you're using that word, but would be how do you bring out the best in people? Whatever their best qualities are. Some people are like designed to be driving the bus, and some people are designed to be making sure the bus operates, properly. And so the question is, how do you find the right fit for that person, so that they live their best, fullest life? And I'm thinking of it in a professional context, but then I'd like to segue back to the point of this conversation, and that is, not only should you be pursuing something you care about on a day-to-day basis and that you're good at, and not try to force fit some kind of a leadership mold on this guy when really he's not really suited for that, but also just living a life that gives you fullness and joyfulness and happiness and all the things we've already talked about for the first few minutes. So, yeah, I don't. It's a tough question how do you teach leadership? I think it's kind of something you learn from experience, and I guess I would say that if you really want to be a leader, like the head of a company or the head of a nonprofit organization, or if you want to just do it, just don't hesitate. Don't think you can't do it. Just work hard, learn the basics, and then. So I'll give you an example, and this may not be exactly along the lines which are. So when I was a young man, I graduated from Tulane University Business School in New Orleans, Louisiana. I wanted to get into the energy business, so I had no knowledge of the energy business. So I went and worked for a very large company called Amoco Production Company at the time. They've changed their name. They were acquired by BP. So I learned to become a landman. I was trained by Amoco for the first 2 years. Went to the training system. I went into the field. I worked under people that were knowledgeable and expert in it. And while I was at Amoco, I met a geologist and a geophysicist. And after 3 years of working at Amoco, we kind of came up with the idea of starting our own business. But I couldn't have done it from scratch. You got to have some basic knowledge and skills in order to be able to move on. And it was the best experience I've ever had, leaving Amoco and starting my own business. But it would have been a total failure if I had tried it much earlier. So I guess one bit of advice would be prepared to suffer a little bit, not suffer, but be prepared to dive in and, do a deeper dive on something that gives you specific knowledge and talent and skills that you can then become the leader in that field.
I think that's fantastic. Learning from others, learning from experiences, rather than just wanting to jump right in. Because it's true, if you want to be a leader, you need to have that self-drive. You have to want it yourself. You can't kind of go to school and build this new desire. But at the same time, you have to know what you're being a leader of, and the best way to do that is to learn from other people who are more experienced than you and be
And I think-
open to not being the best at something, even if
Yeah.
you're passionate about it just yet.
And I think also what's really important is to have places where you're not the leader, so you can learn different qualities from the person who's leading you, and then you can think to yourself, do I like the way that they're trying to lead us? Do I think that maybe I could not do that if I was leading, because you know how the other person on the other end will be reacting to that. And that way you can, again, I love how you said that leadership is just trying to bring out the best in other people. And by learning from other people's mistakes, and as well as learning from their, their good qualities, being able to apply that to yourself, so then you can bring out people and their skills even better.
Yes. Great summaries.
Thank you. Yes, I think that that is the overarching theme, is like, don't be afraid to learn. And we did an interview a little while ago where the lady we were speaking to said, don't be the one to tell yourself no. Like, don't be afraid to try new things and jump into unexpected arenas. Because other people might try to say, you can't do this, or you haven't learned that yet. But so, like you said, just do it. Like, take the risk and start on that path.
You might be surprised, by the way, that if you ask for help, or if you ask for something, you might get it, even if you think it's uncomfortable to ask for it, or there's no way this woman's going to give me the interview or give me the time of day or whatever. If you don't ask, you'll never know. My mother, that was one of her best bits of advice. You just don't hesitate to ask. And don't be unreasonable in what you're asking for. Don't be selfish and crazy about it, but if it's a reasonable request, people are willing to do amazing things to help others develop. Old guys like me, I've got like maybe 6 businesses that I kind of help. I don't really help that much. I wish I could be more helpful, but that I've become involved with, where the CEOs or management, get my advice, or pass things by me, and I give them encouragement. And older people like to help younger people, and it's not just an age thing, but successful people like to help people that are striving to live their fullest selves and to be successful.
Definitely. It's important not to be afraid to reach out, and to also pass that on. Like, just like if someone helps you and then someone else is like, hey, could you help me with this? Like, help other people as well. Return the favor to other members of your community.
Help others grow as well, just like others helped you grow.
Exactly.
So you mentioned that, when you were younger, you started all these amazing businesses. What is one piece of advice that you would give your teenage self, maybe before you had started those, but when you were still younger? What piece of advice would you give them?
I really can't imagine what kind of advice I can give teens, except to be happy, to be healthy, make good choices. I don't know. It sounds kind of silly to suggest, but sometimes people make decisions that aren't that helpful going forward. Or whatever, that might cause troubles. So be smart and wise and thoughtful, and have fun, of course. We're a big sports family. My parents played a lot of sports, and we played lots of tennis together, and golf and other sports. So we found lots of great kind of quality time together playing sports, and I did that with lots of friends. And I don't know, I just say live as fully as you possibly can. It might, but when you get to be older, doesn't help teens or not, but you start worrying about how long you're going to live. I've got grandkids now. I want to meet my grandkids' kids, but to do that, I've got to be like 90 years old or something. I'll be very old. So I'm very focused on staying fit, on, working out and developing strength, so that when my body declines, I'll be able to live longer than old people that don't take care of themselves. Same thing, I guess, applies to young people. Just be cognizant of your well-being. I guess I'm curious to know your take on this, but I keep reading lots of stuff about social media and how that's been kind of a factor in the isolation and kind of mental illness that lots of young people experience. And actually, I've heard statistics that women, young girls, not younger, but girls in particular, suffer from, from image issues, from when they're not being, like when you post this podcast and somebody says, Mercedes didn't say that right, you get your feelings hurt, and then you kind of become withdrawn, and I'm curious, how do you combat that? What can we do? That's where kindness should start, by the way, online. We should eliminate or make it against the law to bully people, or to say mean things and to be catty. I'm way off track here, but I'm sorry. I've been out of C2. You can help me understand what the solution is to that.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we know the solution, but I think from what I've learned and through personal experiences, like just being a teenager in the digital era with all the social media, is like just taking everything with a grain of salt. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think, like, I know some people are like, oh, we shouldn't have social media, and I think that's definitely a good boundary to have. But if you're on social media, like, just realizing, hey, just what I see here is a highlight reel. Like, this
Yeah.
is people's like 1% or whatever. It's like the happy moment, and that doesn't mean that they don't struggle. Everyone has issues, and just realizing that social media is like, it's fake, and everyone has
sure.
ups and downs in life.
And I think as well as one of the reasons why social media might sometimes be a bit harder on some people, because you feel like you're connecting with the people on social media, and I think a lot of good connection does happen online, but I feel like oftentimes it's kind of one-sided. Like, you connect with, I don't know, a message that they're talking about, but it's not really like a connection with, like, talking and having a conversation with someone or speaking to a friend or a family member. I feel like that's a different type of connection, and I feel like sometimes we forget how important it is to connect with those people in real life.
Exactly.
Because we can get caught up in going online because it can be a bit easier.
Yeah.
Do you have friends that have become kind of depressed or isolated or lonely or whatever as a result of, well, just period?
I think I can definitely think of a few friends who spent a lot of time on scrolling online, and I think it definitely has negative effects.
Yeah, where they've been a bit isolated because of that.
But I think that, that's to an extent, like, it's at least you know how to fix it. You can say,
Yeah.
I'm going to set a boundary, I'm going to set a timer, I'm going to, like, shut off my phone after I've been on TikTok for 30 minutes. Like, I think that there are healthy ways to connect with friends online,
For
and
sure.
then still take downtime and realize this is not my whole
Yeah, although I
universe.
do think that social media is still really amazing. I think it gives a lot of platform to people, and it really helps people connect. I know I have a lot of friends who don't live in the country or like live in the same city, so it's great to connect and see like what's up with them, but also making sure that you're being real in real life.
Yeah.
And
I think the point where it gets
balance.
bad and like can be bad on your mental health or on your, happiness is when you're always online, you're always checking, and you're like kind of living in this world of social media where everyone's life seems perfect, not yours. Like, your life is the only one that seems a little bit not perfect. And so just realizing, like, I can go online, but my life is still here.
Or almost like also living to then live on social media. Like, you know what I mean? Like going to a place just to take photos to then post
Yeah.
on social media, where you kind of feel like you're living through that and you're just kind of living for other people's validation, for other people's liking of your post, instead of just going somewhere, maybe documenting a few photos, and then later on after that, you're like, oh, these are cute, like I'll upload them, instead of just going
Living
there
in the
specifically.
living in the present moment is so important. Yeah.
I assume the people that are going to a place and documenting with the intention of posting a bunch of pictures, of themselves and glamorously, like, positioned with the monument in the background or whatever, are trying to get are they also looking for followers, or is it just to impress their core group of friends?
I feel like a lot of times with teenagers, like, just like who are not, influencers, like with 1 million followers, it's just to like show off that they did something cool and share with their close friends.
Yeah, okay. So not all your friends are trying to be influencers.
No, I think there's definitely some people who
For
would
sure.
love that to
There
be their
are-
job.
there are some
but
people-
not all of them.
but-
yeah.
Is this podcast potentially gathering enough momentum so that you two guys are considered influencers? I hope so.
Who knows, hopefully. I think that Anastasia and I just want to, like, encourage and influence teenagers to follow their passions, help others, and focus on happiness in everyday life.
And share
So,
advice to, become the happiest versions of
Exactly.
themselves. And in that case, then being able to give back to other people and help them feel happier as well.
Exactly.
Perfect. That's great.
And so kind of on that note, this is something we love to ask all our guests. What do you do every day that brings you a small bit of happiness?
I have stupid routines. I make breakfast every day, the same breakfast, and I love it. So I start my day loving my day because I have I have this pattern. And then I go through the day when I exercise, and especially if I get to play tennis, where I get to be mobile and you know, but when I stay fit, it makes me feel amazing. I travel overseas a lot. I travel to China, to Saudi Arabia, to Eastern Europe, many times. I've been to China 6 times this year, for example. And wherever I go, whether it's in the United States, in California where I am now, or in Houston where my home is, or in Maine where we are in the summer, or traveling overseas, I work out every day. And it makes me feel really good. It keeps my mind, fresh, and I just feeling healthy and not being sick are things that make me feel great. I think I would add to that just being in community with others, being like the business I do. I'm fascinated by new kind of green energy or green economy type technologies, and I'm working on those, and I'm learning a lot about green hydrogen and green ammonia and just renewable energy and all this stuff. And so having new things to think about and to be curious about and to inquire about is something that also is very stimulating to me personally and engaging. And then being around loving family and friends and all those kinds of things are obviously kind of at the center of happiness and joy in my life. So when I'm around my kids, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, there's nothing better.
Oh, I love that so much. And I really, really love how you mentioned your daily routine, including exercise, because I think Anastasia and I, we talk so much about habits, and it's truly like those things that we do every day that we know will bring us happiness, and so we specifically do them are so powerful. And so what's your go-to breakfast that you love so much?
It's a simple breakfast. It's like a special special bread that I toast, and I've learned from one of the health experts that my wife brought into our hemisphere that butter is good for you. So I lather it with butter, which before was not known to be so good. I have scrambled eggs and bacon, or sometimes I put cook up chorizo and put the scrambled eggs in the chorizo, and it's that basic. It's got some protein. It's flavorful. I put honey on the toast if I've got honey, or sometimes wild blueberry jam, which I love. So that's my breakfast pattern. Thanks for asking.
That sounds
That
amazing.
sounds absolutely delicious.
Sounds delicious.
I know.
Yeah.
I find I always look forward to my breakfast every morning. It really helps get the day going.
On a positive.
There's one other tradition which my family all knows that I'm obsessed with this, or it's my habit again. Every Sunday morning, wherever I am, well, it has to be either Maine or Houston or California, I make waffles. And so I put the mix, and put mush up bananas, and then put like wild blueberries in the whole mix, and that kind of thing. Put an egg in there and whip it all up. Put 1 scoop of protein, and it's just so good. It's just so good. Again, I lather it with butter when it's over, and put a little syrup on top, and wow, that makes me. It's a little less healthy because of the syrup factor, but it's really, really good.
That sounds amazing. We'll have to try that. I
For
think you've
sure.
inspired us both to have some waffles coming up soon.
Exactly.
Do you have a waffle iron, or do you have you do?
We're ready.
Yes. We're prepared.
We're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, that you should use it every Sunday. Get your mom or dad to fire up the waffles, or you can do it for them.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
sounds like a good
exactly.
tradition.
I know you've mentioned so many amazing motivational quotes, but do you have one that you specifically love? And if so, why?
I gave you the one about, any definition of a successful life must include service to others. I think that stands out to me as a as a guidepost for life. That if you can be of service to others, then you're heading towards living a successful life. I'm going to stick with that one. Sorry, I can't think of another one that would top that.
That one's fantastic. I really love that one, and I think it stands behind,
For sure.
points of light, and it talks a lot about, how to feel happy, and it's such a simple, it seems so simple, but it has such a profound impact.
Yeah.
I love that. Amazing. And so I guess if our audience would love to learn more about Points of Light, where would be the best place for them to head?
Google Points of Light, and it'll send you to the website. If you're interested, by the way, in getting a degree in government and public service, your teenage friends might want to keep in mind that the Georgia H.W. Bush School of Government and Public Service has the highest percentage of students graduate that go into public service of any university in the world. So that's something to put on the radar screen. Let me think what other charities I work on. Okay, and if you care about literacy, then the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation does amazing work. So anyway, very nice to be with you guys. This is an amazing treat to meet two bright-eyed, very smart, and giving and caring and loving human beings. So thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been an incredible conversation, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us and share all of your incredible work and, advice for fellow teenagers with us here today.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness.
And a huge thank you to Mr. Neil Bush for joining us. His insights are so incredible, and I absolutely love all of his amazing philanthropic work. Anastasia, what would you say is your biggest takeaway?
I think my biggest takeaway is when you're trying to lead people, that you're trying to bring out the best in them. You're leading not just to make a task happen, but to be the best version of yourself, and therefore making them the best versions of themselves. What about you, Mercedes?
That is fantastic advice. And my biggest takeaway from Mr. Bush today would have to be that in order to fill your life and live your best life, help others, be there for other people, give to others, give to your community. And the best way to do that is by following your passion. Just like with his amazingly inspiring story of his son and his daughter, both helping the community at large in very unique, different ways through following their passion.
If you enjoyed this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, please leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it.
We would also love to have you join our happiness family. It's completely free. That way you'll never miss another podcast episode, and we would really love to have you join us. You can join by following Hack Your Happiness on whichever podcast platform you're on now.
See you next time!